Fans knew something was wrong for years. He looked different from the good-looking star from Cabaret and Logan's Run. He had dark rings around his eyes. His face changed. His voice got weaker. At first, the doctors said it was cancer. They were wrong. At the age of 83, Michael York told the truth. He was dying because of a rare disease. He sold the lovely house he had lived in for 45 years. He now lives close to the Mayo Clinic. His work was going well, but now he is facing the worst tragedy of his life. He was born in a quiet town in England during the chaos of WWE. His name was Hugh Michael Johnson. He was in a strange place, even when he was a little boy. There was a tough Welsh officer in the Royal Artillery who raised him, and there was a beautiful singer who raised him. He was shaped from the start by that mix of hard work and imagination. A big sister and two twin sisters lived with him, but one of the twins died soon after birth. Early on, tragedy and a desire to go on adventures affected the family. Michael broke his nose when he jumped off a coal house when he was only 3 years old. It sounds dangerous, but it also shows how far he'd go to really feel something. As a child in Sussex, his world was safe, but he felt like he needed more. The National Youth Theatre took him on when he was 17. He had a break there. From quiet school shows to the rough stages of East London, he went. The streets were rougher, but there was life in the theatre. He found himself visiting Italy as Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. It was hard to learn how to carry a scene in old towns where the language wasn't even the same. He learned how to act, but that experience also made him tough. It wasn't his blue eyes or smooth voice that made him stand out. It was the way he worked hard. Some other young artists tried to get noticed. He went after the skill. He learned how to breathe, move, and speak. The rules he learned stuck with him. Even back then, each step he took felt like it was part of a bigger trip. He went to Oxford after that. He put more effort into theatre during breaks when most of his classmates went out or rested. He read plays, performed in traditional plays, and practiced with the youth theatre during the summers. He worked all the time, alternating between writing new plays and standard Shakespeare. He had a lot of options with that mix. He wasn't trapped. He could handle conversation from today, or song from hundreds of years ago. Critics began to pay attention to him. Not the big ones, but enough to keep going. After graduating from college in 1964, he didn't go after the glitz. The first place he went was the Dundee Repertory Theatre in Scotland. It wasn't flashy, but it was real. You had to learn your lines quickly, play different roles every week, and deal with tough groups. He really became an actress there. He changed his name to Michael York and began to make a name for himself. He showed how far he was willing to go with a part in The Hostage, a tense and controversial play. He did more than just say the words. He lived them. Something changed everything after that. Richard York was asked to join the National Theatre Company by Laurence Olivier himself. Olivier was a famous person. A lot of artists never got even close to him. But York was working with giants, even though he had only been out of school for a few months. He didn't get major parts, but it didn't bother him. He took on smaller roles, watched, listened, and took it all in. He learned from the best how to keep a stage steady and how to make quiet more loud than a speech. He played parts in Shakespeare plays, historical tales, and standards. In those roles, he was a guard, a fighter, and a peer. He made a difference in every job, no matter how small. During a break at the Old Vic one afternoon, he went to the kitchen to get a cup of tea. He was being watched by director Franco Zeffirelli, who then asked him if he would like to work on movies. Things can change so quickly. One minute you're adding milk to your tea, and the next, you're on your way to fame. It wasn't luck though. Years of solitude, tough work, danger, failure, and decisions led him there. In 1967, after 2 years, Zeffirelli made his move. His choice was for York to play Lucentio in The Taming of the Shrew, a big-budget Shakespeare movie with Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. It was York's very first movie. He was only 25 years old. It would have been too much for most young artists to handle. There were millions of dollars on the line, and two of Hollywood's biggest and most powerful stars were there. But York didn't give up. He picked up the flow of movie acting quickly, by mixing classic lines with funny body language. As a result, people loved him. Even reviewers liked how sincere he was, and how he looked on TV. The official screening of the movie took place in London, and Queen Elizabeth II was there. Michael York was no longer just a stage player after that. He was marked on the map. While that movie opened doors in theaters, TV also came knocking. In the same year he got a part in the BBC program The Forsyte Saga, which was about a rich British family. Jolly was played by York. He was a young, sensitive man who was stuck in a world of custom and pride. The series was huge. There are 26 shows, huge sets and beautiful outfits. At first, not many people saw it. A lot of houses couldn't get BBC Two, but when it was shown again on BBC One in 1968, it caused a huge cultural stir. Over 18 million people had watched by the end of the show. Any country, even the USSR, bought the rights. It was the BBC's first big hit on TV around the world. York was right in the middle of it all. His face was on every screen, and it was easy to recognize. But 1968 was his most important year. He was brought back by Zeffirelli to play Tybalt in Romeo and Juliet. It cost $850,000 to make, which is a lot of money for a Shakespeare movie. The show was dangerous. It had never been done before, but Zeffirelli put real teenagers in the major parts. Olivia Hussey was only 16 years old. He was 17 years old. York, who was a little older than Juliet at 25, brought fire and passion to the part of Tybalt, Juliet's dangerous and angry cousin. He wasn't just reading lines. He lived them. The fights between Tybalt and Mercutio, and then Romeo, were rough, quick and scary. People knew him by the red cape he wore. His parts were tense, and the whole movie was filled with strong feelings. Everything changed after seeing that movie. The movie Romeo and Juliet made almost $39 million around the world, making it the biggest hit of any Shakespeare movie ever. These days, that's more than $300 million. It was up for Best Picture, and won 2 Oscars. The movie turned into something more. Teens wanted to see a Shakespeare movie. Young people really bonded. They saw themselves on the screen loving angry and sad. Tybalt in York wasn't just a bad guy. He was a real guy who was angry and proud. Critics paid attention. All of a sudden, he was more than potential. He was very important. York went from being new to the stage to a worldwide star in just 3 years. One thing linked them all. The risky and unexpected director Franco Zeffirelli had seen something other people didn't. He let York learn, grow and shine. From 1969 to 1971, most young artists were being careful, but Michael York was already breaking the rules. He wasn't looking for exciting or emotional parts. He chose figures that were strange, dark or hard to like, instead of the other way around. York was only 27 years old in The Guru, 1969. He played a British rock star who was eager to learn more about life, and decided to fly to India. It wasn't a peaceful and loving trip though. He was self-centered and cocky, and it wasn't clear if he really cared about faith, or was just acting like he did. The movie came out right after the Beatles' trip to India made news. At that time, people were really interested in anything from the East. The movie was filmed on location, and the famous Indian actor Utpal Dutt played the stranger who was forced to learn how to play the sitar. It wasn't just music in their scenes together. It was a fight of ideas. Ego versus tradition. East against West. York's performance felt real because he played it with a sense of being lost. He never really understood the world he was in. It was even more honest because of that. Then came 1970's Something for Everyone. York didn't hold back at all this time. He was 28 years old, and his role was that of Conrad Ludwig, a handsome but cold-hearted drifter who flirts with both men and women to get into a rich Austrian family. That guy wasn't sweet. He wasn't good. Besides being beautiful and smart, he was also dangerous. He slept with the person who gave him power. His goal was to kill to get what he wanted. He used people as things. The countess he controlled was played by Angela Lansbury, who was already a Hollywood star. When they were together, it was like a game of chess. He's always 3 steps ahead. In the movie, someone asks him, "You can sleep with anyone, right?" The person who plays York looks back and says, "If I have to, but I have my preferences." That one line said everything about the person. In 1970, it was rare and brave to play a gay character without coming out. York didn't just play it though, he owned it. People really liked how the movie looked and felt like the skilled Mr. Ripley. It was just as crazy and amazing as before. By 1971, York had moved on to writing war tales like Zeppelin. He wasn't a killer or a lost soul this time. He wasn't sure which country to live in. The part he played was that of Geoffrey Richard Douglas, a Scottish soldier whose mother was German. He was perfect for a secret task because of his complicated past. During World War I, when German Zeppelin strikes scared people in British towns, York's character was asked by British intelligence to act like he had turned against the British and joined the enemy. He wasn't really a spy, but he had to act like one. The plan was risky and had 2 sides. As a spy, he got on a huge German airplane, knowing that one mistake could kill him. Scenes with a lot of quiet, doubt and close quarters inside the floating death machine slowly built up the tension. The part wasn't played by York as a brave hero. He played him as a person who didn't know who he was, and was torn between duty and blood. That made it even more interesting. Michael York took on a job that would change his life in early 1972. He played Brian Roberts in Cabaret. Roberts is a quiet British scholar who gets caught up in Berlin in the 1930s. There was more to this show than just songs. The movie, which starred Liza Minnelli and was directed by Bob Fosse, broke a lot of rules. At the time, York's character was gay, which wasn't seen very often in Hollywood. Besides what he said, York's act stood out because of what he didn't do. The movie made over $42 million. He said a lot about desire, confusion, and heartbreak with just a few looks and movements. York's character dances with both Sally and the Baron in a scene that everyone will remember. He falls in love with the man more than the woman, even though he doesn't say a word. Some people told him behind the scenes not to play the part. They said it was too dangerous. But York never thought of it that way. He didn't think it was dangerous to play someone else. It was a person. During that movie, something else took place. York and Liza Minnelli became real friends. They met when they were both young actors who were thrown into the chaos of a busy set. To Fosse, shooting in Berlin was not a vacation. He had to get everything just right. But after long days and tough nights, they got along. York was 30 years old, she was 25 years old, and Cabaret would be the highlight of both of their lives. Their friendship didn't end when the movie was over. After many years, would sing backup for her at events and late-night shows. He was there for her through her problems, marriages, and drug abuse. He was always on her side, just like she was on his in the beginning. After only 1 year, York made a full change. He changed into the brave, quick-talking D'Artagnan in The Three Musketeers, in places like Berlin bars and dusty French roads. When the movie came out in December 1973, York was an instant action star. It cost the same as Cabaret, but this time, there are sword fights, duels, and horse chases. He was a young man from the country with big dreams, who fought with experienced musketeers and slowly earned their respect. He was praised by critics for giving the part both charm and fire. It was a brave, physical show that was full of swagger and energy. The film was supposed to be about the Beatles, yes, those Beatles. But it turned out to be York's moment instead. He worked out and fought hard, and he always had a smile on his face. In that instant, he could be both a quiet professor and a brave attacker. Then, in 1974, York joined one of the most exciting groups in movie history. It wasn't just a movie, Murder on the Orient Express was a real event. With stars like Albert Finney, Lauren Bacall, Sean Connery, and Ingrid Bergman, and directed by Sidney Lumet, the movie put York in a new light. He played Count Andreni, a minister from Hungary, who kept a dark secret about his wife. He was smooth, cool, and protective, not like the fiery character he played in The Three Musketeers. He was quiet, but there were times when he got hot. In one scene, Poirot asks his wife about a drug that helps people sleep, and York's character jumps to her defense, ready to fight anyone who tries to charge her. Nearly $38 million was made on the movie, which showed York could do anything. Be brave, soft, risky and kind. Michael York had a very busy mid-1970s. For the 1975 movie, Conduct Unbecoming, he played a British soldier stationed in colonial India. Lieutenant Arthur Drake, a young hopeful guy who slowly gets caught up in a dark incident, was played by him. At first, he's only there to help defend another cop in a private, unofficial hearing. Things get stranger as he digs deeper, though. It starts out as a formality, but turns into a personal quest for justice. As Drake finds out more disturbing secrets about the unit, York's acting gets stronger. From a newbie, who doesn't know what's going on, to a man who risks everything to do what's right, he changes. 1 year later, York quickly changed from a story set in the past to one set in the far future. In 1976, he played Logan 5 in the movie Logan's Run. In this story, he is a warrior in the future, who makes sure no one lives past the age of 30. His job was to catch runners, who were trying to get away from their problems. But Logan starts to wonder what's going on when his own life clock is messed with. Things start to go wrong in the world he thought was perfect. He runs for freedom with Jessica 6, avoiding death as they go. They find that life is real outside the dome. At the end of the story, Logan comes back to reveal the truth, and the system falls apart. It was an important part for York. He became a celebrity in science fiction for that one. Behind the scenes, he also broke rules. Logan is questioned by a machine that splits his mind into holograms in a famous scene. York was the first person to be filmed in hologram form. In one scene, he had to play 7 different versions of himself. It was weird, complicated, and an important step forward. The famous scene in the ice cave got a lot of attention because of his virtual work. Some people thought he did the stunts himself. The effects in the movie won an Oscar and changed the way sci-fi looks forever. Then, in 1977, York changed into something totally different. For the miniseries Jesus of Nazareth, he played John the Baptist and worked with Franco Zeffirelli again. It was shown in many countries and became a worldwide TV event. In the part where he baptizes Jesus and calls him the Son of God, his fiery, intense acting really stood out. Many people watched the show, and it became a classic. York's performance made the story feel urgent and real, which made it stick with viewers. Before all of this, in 1974, York had already played the well-known character Pip. There were a lot of big names in the British cast of Great Expectations, which brought Dickens' story to life with beautiful visuals and a surprising turn by choosing the same actor as both young and old Estella. Some critics didn't agree with the choice, but York's emotional act made it all work. In his mind, Pip was real, uncertain, hurt, driven, and hopeful, all at the same time. When the 1980s came around, York switched to TV. He was nominated for his first Emmy in 1986 for a beautiful part in the ABC after-school show, Are You My Mother? York didn't hold back in a performance that was deep and moving for a show for kids. He watched real parent-child relationships for weeks to make sure he got it right. This part showed that York could do more than just historical plays or epics after a few rough years on stage. It was the start of his second act. The next year, in 1987, York was on American primetime TV in the show Knots Landing. He was the role of Charles Scott, a smooth-talking, shady businessman who gets involved in a love affair that goes bad. Fans didn't expect the part to be what it was, and that was the point. It let York write about people who were darker and rougher. Ratings went up, and people liked how he made a bad guy seem like a nice guy. York made a name for himself in science fiction TV shows in the 1990s. He won an award for Best Guest Actor in Babylon 5 in 1995 for his role as a mystery minister. He came back to the show twice and played other sci-fi parts as well, like a bad scientist in Sliders and an alien hunter in a cult Showtime movie. He was in at least 7 sci-fi TV movies during this time. giving characters who were often morally or emotionally torn more meaning. Producers liked his voice and how he looked. He gave even the craziest ideas weight. That same year he was up for his second Emmy. This time, it was for The Lot, a western set in Hollywood in the 1930s. York played a studio boss who was cruel, charming, and very powerful. He did a lot of study, talked to real old-school leaders, and watched movies from that time. It paid off for him. It got great reviews. The audiences did too, and York showed once more that he could run a show with both power and sensitivity. But a strange little comic that came across his desk in 1996 changed his career more than anything else. The name of it was Austin Powers. York wasn't sure at first. He looked over the copy 3 times, but wasn't sure if he should sign it. It was silly, loud, and not at all like anything he had done before. Even though his agent told him not to do it, he was still interested in it. He said yes in the end. York was open to improvising on set, even though it was something new for him. He gave Basil more lines, helped shape his character, and made him more than just a living joke. His scenes were funny, but they were also sharp and easy to remember. The movie was a big surprise when it came out in cinemas in 1997, but it went crazy when it came out on home video. The follow-ups came quickly. The Spy Who Slept With Me in 1999 made more than $300 million. Goldmember made really close to the same thing in 2002. All of a sudden kids were repeating York's words. He was being asked to go to Comic-Con. His fan group grew overnight, and most of them didn't know he played Shakespeare before. York got 3 times as much fan mail from 1996 to 2002. 70% came from people younger than 25. Coming back like that is something that most artists can only dream of. Having gone from being a bad guy in a British play to a big name in science fiction, then to a TV star nominated for an Emmy, and finally to a comedy giant, he never lost what made him great. He gave everything he did his all. Then there's his love life. It began in 1967, when Michael York was waiting for a photographer named Pat McCallum to show up for a shoot. He thought he was going to meet an Irishman, but when he opened the door, an American woman in blonde hair who didn't have a camera bag on her showed up. York thought it was an interview, and asked her to come in for tea. They laughed and talked. Finally he asked, "Aren't you going to ask me any questions?" She looked lost and said no. That's when it hit him. This person took the picture. Something clicked after that strange but cute moment. In the end, York said, "It felt like we'd known each other before." After a few months he was sure she was the one. The wedding took place at Kensington Register Office in London on his 26th birthday, March 27, 1968. He had asked her to marry him on Valentine's Day on Juhu Beach in Mumbai, just a few weeks before. It was sweet and almost too sweet. And he joked later, "How corny can you get?" But they really did love each other. Things became very scary right after the proposal. While they were staying at a Maharaja's house, Patricia got very sick. Her health quickly got worse, and her life was in danger. She was only saved by a visiting surgeon. York had to take her back to England. That event brought them together for life. York not only fell in love, but he also became a dad. Patricia had a boy named Rick McCallum from a previous marriage. He was born in Germany in 1954. Rick's dad was a pilot in the U.S. Air Force. Rick became one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood over time. He is best known for making the prequels to Star Wars. He also helped make the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles and worked closely with George Lucas on that project. For years York worked hard in front of the camera, but Rick made a name for himself behind it, and their bond stayed strong through it all. York and Patricia bought a house in the Hollywood Hills for $260,000 in 1976. It looked like a small French chateau and was high above the Sunset Strip. It was their safe place. It was 4,200 square feet and had a library, a fireplace made of Texas limestone, and a full deck next to a mosaic-tiled pool. They lived there for more than 45 years. They finally sold it for $7 million in 2022. It wasn't about the money though. York's health had gotten very bad. In 2013, he was told he had amyloidosis, a rare disease that had been mistaken for bone cancer. To be close to the Mayo Clinic, they moved to Rochester, Minnesota. She said it was the place that kept him alive. In 2008, the first sign showed up. While making a movie, York saw that his eyes had dark circles under them. He first thought it was because he was tired. He tried putting on makeup to hide it, but the rings got darker and stayed there longer. There was a problem. It turned out to be multiple myeloma, which is a type of cancer. That wasn't it. They looked for the wrong disease for years. At the same time, York's health got worse. His voice began to break. It was impossible for an actor to lose his voice. "It was like I lost my voice," he said. It wasn't just the voice. He was always tired and couldn't work because of it. His wife looked all the time. Dr. Robert Kyle, a hematologist at the Mayo Clinic, finally gave them the right diagnosis: AL amyloidosis. His innards were being hurt by the disease. His face looked different. The raccoon eyes that made him famous were actually caused by protein buildup. People saw him with sunglasses on to hide the growth. Fans were shocked by how he looked. He played the lead role in both Cabaret and Logan's Run. He looked different now though. York made a choice that changed his life in 2012. He got a stem cell transfer at the Mayo Clinic when he was 70 years old. Chemotherapy was part of the process. It made him lose his hair, but it worked. After the donation went well, York started calling that day his second birthday. He was healthy again and had a second chance. He turned his fight into a goal. After years of pain, he started renewal in 2014, as a way to bring attention to and money for amyloidosis study. In 2016, he gave a powerful speech at the National Press Club, in which he called amyloidosis the Rodney Dangerfield of diseases. He also spoke at medical events and voiced teaching videos. No one cares about it. He was no longer just an actress. He fought for things. The Yorks sold most of their art collection and the house they had lived in for many years in Hollywood in 2022. They moved to Rochester, to an area for seniors that is only a few minutes from the Mayo Clinic. It wasn't exciting, but it was safe. Patricia said they were glad they did it. They went to places in the area, wrote books, and were happy with their new life. She kept writing. He did voice work for movies when he could. He even did voice work for a character on The Simpsons, which made his grandkids very happy.